What's up, everybody? We're back. Had a little technical difficulties. Now we got a second computer, as you can see. Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate that. But we're back. If you missed the first time around, the Sode Shack got a little bit of a redecoration. TV's over there now. We got some nice football decorations. You can see a little Colts paraphernalia here. That's actually a picture of Johnny Unitas right there. And then you have the little Colts wooden wheel decor there. So come on in. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. Bobby and I just have to get the notes pulled up, but we're excited you're here. Addie's got the allergy, so he's home recovering. So we're going to do a little buy, sell, hold, and a little listener Q&A tonight. So come on in, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Don't be afraid. Gather around the virtual campfire. We can't wait to answer some of these questions y'all got. All right, Bobo, we ready to do this?
Let's rock.
This is Big 3 IDP.
Catch us in the league going in every week, racking them points up. Who got the streak? Cause we joking, it happens to fun. Yeah, this how the crew getting it done. I'm talking Josh, Adam, and Bobby, making waves like a tsunami. Hard hitting, the IR's real. This football, yeah, you know the deal. Cause it's all about the defense and the TDs. Yeah, this is Big 3 IDP.
What's up, you diehards, you degenerates, you lovers of defensive football? This is Josh Raymer, and we are back with another episode of the Big 3 IDP podcast. And I'm joined in the Sode Shack tonight. It has taken me back to the days of the XFFL podcast. I throw an extra F in there? I think I might have. XFFL?
Not enough.
XFFL podcast that launched the Big 3 IDP podcast. To my left, Bobby Reynolds. Bobo, how are you, man?
Circa 2018?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because we launched this pod in 2019.
Okay.
July of 2019. I think the XFFL pod launched the year prior.
Yeah.
At the earliest, it would have been like around,
2017.
like November of 2017.
We put some work into that
We
pod.
did. That was like our league mates were spoiled.
They
like,
still ask for that pod.
they do.
Yeah.
We have other people that host it now.
Sure. Well,
you know?
host is a
Occasionally.
yeah.
When
Yeah.
they feel like they want to do a sode.
I recommend that though. I mean, if you've got anybody who, you know, just enjoys keeping up with the league and has the time to just put out a 15-minute podcast, that's pretty awesome, awesome thing for a league for sure. It gets trades stirred up. Me and Josh really had the league by the balls there for a couple years.
Yeah,
we
we
could
did.
really kind of orchestrate and
We were the
puppeteer.
puppet masters.
For sure, man.
That's actually where the name Big 3 came from, was we had a former league member who left in a little bit of a huff and basically called us the puppet masters, the three that control the league, I think is how he termed us. And so we became the Big 3 after that.
He was right.
He was right. I mean, yeah, we were calling all the shots,
Yeah.
using the podcast to basically launch mental assaults on our league mates. So
Yeah.
if for no other reason than to mess with the people in your league,
Yeah,
you should do a league podcast.
absolutely.
It's a lot of
100%.
fun, and it's so easy now. It's free.
Yeah,
You don't have to have the fancy setup. Just do it on your phone. Do it with your friends. It's fun to talk football.
I agree, man.
As we know.
Who doesn't have a podcast these days?
That's right. I saw there are 2 million podcasts now, like
Wow.
actual shows
Wow,
in the world, but like only a third of them have put out an episode in the last 45 days.
nice.
So yeah,
It
we're-
sounds great. It's kind of like a treadmill. You're like, I'm
Yes.
gonna buy a treadmill.
always sounds better up front.
Heck yeah, I'm gonna get ripped. Gonna have this like awesome dad bod going to the pool. 2 weeks in, you're like, I don't know. This McDonald's looks pretty good.
Sounds pretty good. That treadmill could
Yeah.
hold a lot of laundry.
Oh,
if I just want to
100%.
stick the basket over there.
Yeah, it quickly turns into just a extra walk-in closet, walk-by closet.
Yes, a walk-in closet.
That's kind of what I told somebody the other day. Don't ever buy a brand new treadmill. Don't ever buy a brand new bicycle, because people kind of have the same type of aspirations and stuff for that. Ping pong tables, like you can find all kinds of stuff where people are like, yeah, man, me and my kids are gonna play foosball upstairs, or
Never happens.
Never really gets into it.
The opposite end of that is the iPad, right?
100%.
Like, iPad gets 150% more usage than you think it's going to.
You know what's really weird too is those strength shoes. Remember the toe shoes?
Are you talking about the ones with like the big platform on the front?
They said you can dunk in like 6 weeks.
Connor had those.
Yeah, I bet he
He
did.
used to run around in the backyard in those things. Connor did have good hops. I think those
prancing
helped.
around like
Yes.
a pony.
I don't think it was worth it for the embarrassment of running around in those things, but I think I think they helped his hops a little bit.
That's awesome.
We're without Addie tonight. Addie caught a bad case of the allergies. Man, there are a lot of seasons in Dynasty football, as we know, Bobo.
For sure.
Allergy season in Bowling Green, Kentucky is not to be trifled with.
You know, we went camping up in Indiana, not last weekend, but the weekend before. It's a different world up there. Nothing's bloomed.
Really?
It's all brown.
Wow.
I mean, maybe now 2 weeks later is a little bit different, but everything is blooming down here. You go out to the truck in the morning, there's just a nice thin film of pollen for you to just, take a finger and just rub it in your teeth if you want to.
Just get exposed to it.
Might as well,
Build up those immunities.
Heck yeah, put it in your tea if you need to.
Yeah, it's a good. I'm thankful we have a garage that we can park our cars in, because
Oh, yeah.
otherwise your car would be green, like a light yellowish green, whether you liked it or not.
For sure. It is a real thing. And I know probably people up north and down south have it too, but Kentucky seems to be pretty rough.
Kentucky, from what I've heard, is one of the worst states in the country for allergies. We just have a high amount of allergens and pollen and just all the stuff that makes people itch.
Have you ever had the allergy test?
No, but Allie has,
Yeah.
and she's allergic to grass,
Yeah.
cockroaches, which is essentially dust.
Yep.
And then one other thing that I can't remember.
Yeah, I've had it done. I was a kid. I had allergy shots every day when
Did
I
you
was
really?
like, I don't know, 10 years old. But the graph on my back, I ended up looking like just a hunchback at the end. It
Oh
was
my
so
gosh.
swollen. I mean, it's like I run the gamut. Like just
Everything?
If it's out there, it's like, just don't give it to me. Food and stuff, I'm fine with.
Yeah, I don't have any food allergies.
I thank goodness,
thankfully.
man. Absolutely. But yeah. Anyways, allergies are not fun.
Allergies are not fun. So we wish Addie a speedy recovery, but in his stead, we've got a really fun episode lined up for y'all. We're going to be doing some buy, sell, hold, listener Q&A. We got a lot of questions in the doc from the listeners, Bobo.
Yeah, it's awesome. We've got a lot of people who, check in, and it's going to be fun because, thankfully Josh pointed me in the right direction a couple years ago as far as the Around the NFL podcast, but that is legitimately my favorite podcast right now.
It's so good.
We love the fantasy footballers. There's a ton of other, podcasts that we listen to, football, non-football related, but as far as wholesome, not always fantasy, not really a lot of fantasy talk.
Not a lot of
is
fantasy
involved.
really at all.
But the Around the NFL pod was pretty awesome. And I legit have been singing Graybeard for the last 2 nights.
It's a
going
banger.
To bed. It is a banger.
Yeah. Dan did a great job.
I don't know what you called it today in our Slack there, but a nice little sultry voice.
It's got a sultry voice. Yeah.
It was great, man.
It was kind of like would you say like a Dave Matthews kind of like
see that
vibe to it. Yeah.
For sure.
Go back and that's one of my favorite episodes they do every year. Cause I think about, okay, if I put this team together, which is basically 30 years old or older free agents that are still available when they make that episode, that's how he puts the team together. He goes position by position, and they had Evan Silva on from Establish the Run. So it was a great episode.
Yeah.
But they, I always think about if I made this team on Madden, what would the rating be?
Yeah.
Typically Madden ratings, you don't have a lot of like 90s. You have mainly like 80s and 70s, right?
Sure.
I think that team would legit be like a 68.
Really?
Like I think it would be the first number would be a 6.
It's out of my realm. I'm not the Madden guy.
It's a bad team.
I got you.
When Greg was like, they probably are like a 1-16 operation, I was like, yeah, that's accurate. I'm gonna say that's probably a realistic record for this team.
I'll tell you, the last time I played Madden was actually last year, 2020. We were at Mom's for either Thanksgiving, Christmas. Everybody's conked out, just too much of the whatever's in the turkey. I can't even remember now. But I run upstairs and I'm like, I'm gonna fire up the PS2.
Oh wow!
And so it was the one with Marshall Falk, I think.
That's 03, I think.
And I don't even think you have like hit stick. You're just diving to tackle.
Hit stick was 05.
It's very difficult to play. I will say
it's a bad. It got good. I really do think the best Madden ever was Madden 05. That was the one with Ray Lewis on the cover. They introduced the hit stick.
Okay.
And I think that was the best iteration. Now, of course, the graphics are better now.
Sure.
But it was a better game back then.
College and stuff, we got into a weird little trance of GoldenEye,
Yeah.
Mario Kart. We got back on that in N64, which I really didn't have growing up. My dad and mom just told me to go outside pretty much.
Yeah, that was me. My dad said he would never buy us a video game console and then bought us a 64 for Christmas. That's one of my favorite memories. I think that was like 96 when it came out.
Yeah.
And that was actually Al and I's first purchase
together
was we started dating in 2009. So we went to the Great Escape comic book store here in town. They sell video games, you know? And so we bought an N64 together and bought just a ton of games and just played Mario Kart and
that's awesome.
You know, Mario Party, all the classics.
Great way to hang out with your spouse, man.
It is. Play some video games.
You know, I don't think I had an N64. I think I skipped. I think I went from Super because I played a bunch of Kirby and Donkey Kong and went straight to PS2 after that.
Yeah.
I don't think we had a PlayStation at all.
You would have skipped the generation that was PlayStation and N64 and went straight to the PS2.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, fun stuff playing in college, but anyways,
yeah. It is a good. There's like Allie loves Scrabble, so like we have the Nintendo Switch, and there's a knockoff Scrabble game on there.
Okay,
it's a great way to just like kill some time on the couch if you're like nothing's on TV. What are we gonna do?
Love it.
You know, to throw on some Scrabble. It's fun.
Heck yeah.
So let's do some news, Bobo, and then we're gonna get into the listener Q&A, and then we're gonna do some buy, sell, hold. As we know, Bobby, you are a buyer, a seller, and a holder.
Heck yeah.
In many aspects of life. So that's a great segment for you coming up.
Absolutely.
The big piece of news here I want to talk about, Bobo, the Sam Darnold trade.
Mm-hmm.
We had a feeling, it seemed like the rumblings were growing that Zach Wilson was going to be the Jets pick there at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So the question then became, and you saw a lot of debate this past week about what are they going to do with Sam Darnold? Yeah. Are they going to keep him in the building and have him sort of be the starter in name only? Or are they going to keep him in the building and let him compete? Or are they going to move him? Turns out they decided to ship him off for, I mean, not a lot. They got like a 6th rounder this year and a 2nd, and I think they did a 4th and a 6th pick swap next year.
Yeah.
So they picked up a 2nd rounder, but it's not until 2022.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers acquire Sam Darnold. The Jets obviously going with a quarterback, presumably Zach Wilson there at 2.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you like this trade for both sides?
You have to think that they probably tried to acquire Deshaun Watson first.
Yes.
You know, I actually tweeted that today. You know, early 2021, we're all saying, how cool would it be if Deshaun played in Carolina? Today, we're all saying, how cool would it be if Deshaun played for Houston in 2021?
Yeah, how surprising.
And we've got a little plug for Deshaun. We'll talk about him maybe if we get to it here later on. But man, I'll be honest with you, I really like it. I'm a Darnold guy. There's enough tape in New York. He's made enough good plays to show you that he can be a competent NFL quarterback. I do think that this really says a lot about the coaching staff there in Carolina. It says a lot about Judge. You know, it says that he is willing to put his faith in Sam Darnold's got to be what, 23 now?
He's still young. I think he's either 23 or 24.
Post mono, but I like it for Darnold. I mean, I was never a big Teddy fan last year. I kind of thought Teddy was just a 1-year rental, which is fine. It's fine for Teddy. He's made decent money in the NFL, but Sam Darnold is still young, still has a chance.
23. I just looked it up.
You look at that offense too. I mean, CMC is going to be back. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. I'm assuming Ian Thomas is still there. And then the defense is getting better. Shaq Thompson, Jeremy Chin, Brian Burns, the interior defensive tackle they drafted, Derek Brown.
That's right.
And now this is the other thing too that kind of goes in correlation with this is they're able to keep their 108 pick. So now where do they go with the 8th pick?
They could, move out, or they could draft another, what if they went I don't know if he'd still be there, but what if they go Kyle Pitts
for sure
at number 8? They don't have a tight end of consequence.
I saw Daniel Jeremiah. His most recent mock is showing Pitts to the Bengals at 5.
See,
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I just don't see that being a position of need right now for the Bengals.
But see, I also disagree with the Zach Wilson at 2 because I think it is going to be, and obviously now I'm going to forget his name, but the boy at Justin Fields.
Justin Fields out of Ohio
State. I think it's
State.
Fields at 2.
You think it should be or it will be? Because it
It
almost
should be.
certainly is going to be Zach Wilson.
Maybe. I just really.
That would be wild. I would be legitimately stunned if Fields went 2. I think Fields is going 3. I think San Francisco is taking Justin Fields. I'm not buying the Mac Jones hype.
What? Yeah.
But now we got to question what happens with Teddy.
Yeah.
I've heard Denver as a possibility for Teddy. I think Teddy's a great backup.
Yeah.
I don't want him as my starter.
Teddy doesn't need to be a starter on any team.
He had the perfect role with the Saints, which was come in, hold down the fort in Drew Brees' absence for 4 or 5 games.
Yep.
If he's your full 17-week starter, you're in deep trouble.
Absolutely. And shout out to Sam Darnold for surviving Adam Gase. He probably knew he just had to tread water for a couple days, just to, couple years to make it work, just to get through Gase, let Gase get on and get past. And, I like Robert Saleh, and I think that I think the Jets could be a team in a couple years that we're going to look back and say, wow, they're actually contending to, with the Patriots every year. Maybe the Patriots turn it around.
All depends on Wilson and Saleh.
Absolutely.
If that's who it ends up being at 2. I like the move as well. Sam Darnold is who I was hoping for the Colts. You can see my Twitter reaction to see how I felt about this.
Yeah.
But that was the one I wanted all along, especially when you have to give up a 6th and a 2nd and do a pick swap.
But I will say,
compared to a 2nd and what's going to be a 3rd and what's going to end up being a 1st rounder.
Wentz is better than Darnold, though. Like historically, he has already been
done
better.
more. He has done more than Darnold.
From here on out,
I think they were about the same in terms of performance last year on the field.
I could see that. You're basically paying a little bit for what Wentz has already done. But I will say, from here on out, Darnold could be a better quarterback than Carson Wentz. But yeah, man, I like it. I have no qualms about Darnold. I would probably. I'm probably buying Sam Darnold right now.
You should be.
You look at the cast that he's being put into.
It's his best surrounding talent ever. I mean, you've got Matt Rule as the coach. You've got Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator.
Did I say?
You said Joe Judge.
Yeah. So sorry.
So you've got Robbie Anderson. Curtis Samuel's gone, but you've still got the wide receiver there from
Robbie Anderson,
DJ Moore. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, plus CMC's coming back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is a great team, an ascending defense, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think this will be a team that's in the mix in the NFC South, and I like them a lot better with Darnold than I did with Bridgewater.
I think they could maybe go linebacker at 8.
That would make sense.
Shaq Thompson's been okay.
Micah Parsons maybe there?
I mean, I would think Parsons will still be on the board. I mean, it just depends on where
he'll
all
be on
these
the board, I think, at 8.
If all these quarterbacks really go where everybody thinks that they're going to, it's going to be crazy. But I wouldn't be surprised if, we all kind of tagged Isaiah Simmons to go to the Panthers last year. And, obviously they ended up taking the most attractive IDP, Tahir Whitehead.
That's right. That is right.
And he didn't really do a whole lot because Jeremy Chin played in the box all year. But, so there you go.
So a couple other pieces of news here. Keanu Neal and DeMonte Kazee to Dallas. You put here kind of where they both ended up there. Well, you got to remember, Dan Quinn is now the defensive coordinator, the former head coach of the Falcons. So I'm sure he got into Mike McCarthy's office like, let's just bring all these guys from the Falcons over here.
What about Dion? Is Dion
available? Let's bring him in. We're going to make Keanu Neal a linebacker. And we've already got, Jalen Smith and Leighton Vanderneck. But let's bring over Dion, old Debo as well.
For sure.
If there's one defense you want to recreate, Bobby, in another place, it's the Atlanta Falcons defense under Dan
Absolutely.
Quinn. Yikes.
If you're real big on points scored against, go and get them. I like this for Keanu. I mean, because he is whatever. But
as a linebacker, though, I mean, I have no idea what to expect now.
I'm just not huge on Jalen Smith or LVE right now. Obviously, LVE, if he's on the field, is whatever. But Jerry Jones has too big of a head to move on from Jalen Smith and to admit that he was wrong. IDP numbers-wise, Smith was pretty good last year, honestly. I just don't think he's that good of an NFL quarterback. I think that
a quarterback.
Oh gosh, linebacker. So sorry. We've
Judge.
We put in some hours today, but Keanu as a maybe linebacker, I'm kind of buying it because Dallas does some weird things, and I've been a Keanu fan. I mean, thank God he stayed healthy last year, which was awesome because he was able to go and actually go to another team. But yeah. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Fine
Yeah,
with it.
I was looking up to see. So he is 216 pounds and he's 6'1".
Dang.
So
Healthy size.
yeah, that's pretty good. That's not like the biggest linebacker. You'd maybe like him to have a little more weight.
Bigger than most safeties, though.
But I will say, yeah, Deion Jones is 220.
Nice.
And I believe he's probably about the same height, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
He's
Jones isn't huge.
yeah, he's not a big dude. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know what. Oh, his height is 6'1" as well. So
4 pounds.
Keanu Neal's about the same size as Deion Jones.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. So yeah, he could definitely make the transition body size wise. I'm just not sure what to expect. So if you want to go plant your flag and go get Keanu Neal, thinking heck, he could be the running mate alongside Jalen Smith if LVE suffers another
Is Sean
horrific
Lee
injury.
still there?
No, I think he's a free agent actually.
God,
because he was on the Graybeards.
That's right.
He was on the Graybeards. That's how I know that.
Yeah, that's what really dropped him down in that 60 range.
That's right. So a couple other 40 times here. We're wrapping up pro days. And of course, the 40 times, some of them have been a little eye-popping.
Yeah.
So we had Jamar Chase at a 4.38, Kyle Pitts at a 4.44.
Yeah.
40. So I was talking to our buddy Jacob, who runs D1 Sports here in Bowling Green. It's a premier training facility.
He's no joke.
He worked with a lot of the WKU football players to get ready for their pro day. So he was doing a lot of the speed training and stuff like that to get these guys ready for the 40. And we were talking about this. And I said, okay, so fill me in on 40 times pro day versus the combine. Essentially, when you have a pro day, those are typically hand timed because hand timed are going to be a little faster.
Yeah.
Because you have the human element involved. Typically, hand timed 40s are a little bit slower off of the start.
Sure.
Like your brain has to take time to register the person moving. So the clock starts a little late, but it typically finishes a little early on the finish line. So it kind of rectifies itself and corrects itself.
Sure.
But there's still that element of human error. So typically pro day times are a little faster. And you will see coaching staffs and the staffs there putting on these pro days, giving their guys a little more favorable 40 times because they want their guys to go pro.
Yeah.
It looks good on the program. You're doing right by the athlete, bumping up their draft stock. I think he said the University of Kentucky had a couple guys running like the 4.2s.
Yeah.
Like that is like once in a generation type 40 speed.
Yeah.
So
John Ross.
yeah. And he said, typically the combine is a little slower because it's laser timed and a laser timer is a little more unforgiving. It's more precise.
Yeah.
You just typically run a little slower because there's not that element of human error. So I'm not putting a lot of stock into these 40 times.
For
and
sure.
I would doubt if NFL teams, especially this year with no combine, I doubt they're putting a lot of stock into the 40 time as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you see a Jamar Chase run a 4.6, you're probably going to say, I don't know about that. But yeah, I think somebody said today that if Jalen Reagor ran it this year, he'd run a 4.19 or something. Like,
yeah,
with the hand
probably.
time. I mean, it's I don't know. It 40 times are pretty bizarre this year. You can tell who's quick. You know, you can tell on Twitter if there's an actual video of them. I can at least tell most of the time the difference between a 4.4, a 4.6, you know, anything higher than that. But yeah, man, we'll talk about Pitts in a little bit. His ADP is really getting out of whack. And Jamar Chase too is going to be fun to see where he actually lands. I think nobody I've seen so far, the running backs have hurt some of their causes. I don't think anybody, some of the deeper running backs, especially behind kind of the first tier, really haven't helped their draft stock. But the wide receivers have run pretty fast this year. And
Yes,
the
they
IDPs have run pretty quick as well.
Yeah. Do you think, real quick, I was listening to the fantasy footballers today and they were talking about the rookie running backs. And they were saying they thought Travis Etienne may be the first running back off the board over Najee Harris, even though Harris, for fantasy purposes, is the much more desirable player. Do you think Etienne or Harris goes first in the actual NFL draft?
Harris for sure.
You think Harris does?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way to be. I'm not a Harris believer. I'm not like planting my flag in him, but I do like him. I think he is. The more I kind of watch him and Etienne, I think Etienne is one of the best. You know, everybody kind of wants to to like Kamara, and it's like
that was the comparison.
Let's not do that. Let's let Alvin be Alvin.
They say he's like a poor man's Kamara.
Yeah, I can kind of get that. But I think Najee is. I think he's in a tier by himself. Honestly,
They said he has the 3-down potential.
I think it's the same with everybody right now. I think there's a clear number one offensive lineman in Sewell. I think Lawrence is by far the best quarterback. I think you're looking at Chase being the number one wide receiver, and then Devontae Smith, whoever. I think Najee is by far the best wide receiver or running back, and then obviously Pitts. You know, the IDPs.
There is a pretty clear pecking order.
Yeah, I mean, the IDPs are going to get a little bit more skewed, and you know, shout out to our boy Mike Wohlert, has a couple of awesome pods out right now talking about rookie defensive linemen and some linebackers, and talking about maybe, you know, he's talking about 5 to 10 guys that you need to pay attention to in some of your IDP rookie drafts. But I defer to smarter people when it comes to, especially this year's class. I was a little bit more in tune last year as far as the IDPs and stuff were concerned, but we'll talk a little bit closer to the actual rookie draft about what we're wanting as far as picks and stuff for this year. But yeah, the 40 times are a little skewed. I might run a 4.6 this year.
Yeah, you may. I ran a 5.8, I think, when we actually did which I thought was good. I was running so fast I almost fell forward. So that tells you how much effort I was putting into it.
Love it.
You mentioned the rookie IDPs and smarter people.
Mm-hmm.
We know John Macri, Cal Bellyfuel, had the rookie linebacker pre-draft rankings pod last week or a couple weeks ago.
It's great.
March 24th. This week, recording tomorrow night, him enjoy the tooth.
Dirty.
Going to be breaking down some defensive linemen.
Dirty.
Going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you tune into that. Probably be dropping that tomorrow night or early Thursday morning. So, Bobby, let's get into some listener Q&A.
You don't want to hit the last note?
Do you want to do Kalen Ballage to the Steelers?
That's just treading water.
I love the Bellagio or the Gorballage. That's what they were talking about last year, right? Those two guys, Frank Gore and I think Kalen Ballage together was Gorballage.
So if you can peg one of Najee or Etienne to Pittsburgh, who would you rather have?
Najee.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That feels more like a Pittsburgh thing, right?
Yeah, I think you could look up and Etienne might not be a great like top of the first round pick in a year or so. I think the running back class from last year was pretty elite. But yeah, Kalen.
Obviously, we had 6 guys inside the top 24. Has that ever happened?
I don't think it's going to be quite that this year.
No, I think we've got like 2 or 3 guys that got some sizzle to them.
I mean, the second round last year was just full.
Yes.
J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, Jonathan Taylor. Like there was some depth there.
It was a dirty draft. This year we have Harris, Etienne, and Javonte Williams.
Yeah, maybe yeah. And even Javonte, I could be talked out of.
Who's the Ohio State kid?
Trey Sermon.
Yeah. I was going to say Dynasty Sneaker.
I like Trey Sermon.
Yeah, mad at us if we don't remember him.
Yeah, I like it.
He looked impressive. He played in the first playoff game, right, for Ohio State and then got hurt.
Yeah, the only thing I really pay attention to as far as college is like, you know, if you're playing in a big game and if you're doing that to a Clemson defense, it's kind of like, man, this is kind of hard to not pay attention to. Kind of the same with Chuba Hubbard. Small guy, runs really fast, seems to be pretty only one directional, but got a lot of college production. That kind of stuff is kind of hard to turn a blind eye to. So anyways,
it'll be very fascinating.
And this is baby food for anyone wondering.
Yes.
Big baby food fan.
I feed my son Paxton, who's 13 months old, these pouches, and he loves them.
They're great.
But they apparently have a lot of nutrients.
Little banana, blueberry, and oatmeal.
Yeah, the ones he drinks or eats are disgusting. It's like 4 different or 5 different types. I'm like, there's no way these can all taste good together.
This is great. This is like my monster. This is what keeps me going.
There you go. It keeps Bobby fueled. Keeps the body fueled.
Love you, Eddie.
So let's do some listener Q&A here. Thanks to all the listeners that submitted these questions here. We're going to try to hit as many of them as we can before we get into some buy, sell, hold. And I love where we're starting off here, Bob. We're going to start off. Will Roquan Smith be the LB1 in 2021? So depending on your scoring format, it was either Devin White or Roquan Smith as the LB1 in 2020. So I would say him and Devin White are the favorites, but I think you always take the field when it comes to predicting someone to repeat as the LB1. What say you, Bobby?
I'm going to say yes. I really, really like Roquan. Trevathan is gone.
He's still there.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
Gosh, is he ever going to leave?
He's never going to die.
Goodness gracious. So he had, let's see what it was, 98 tackles last year, but he had 18 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. He had 2 interceptions, 7 pass defense, and he had 41 assists. So you're looking at north of 130 total tackles. I just think Roquan is he's the middle of that defense, and not a lot has changed. You're still going to have Khalil Mack.
Hicks is still there.
Kwiatkowski is gone. He's been gone a year now or whatever, but Roquan is just solid. Just week in and week out, that guy just produces. I understand the whole Devin White, Levante David is staying. Look how many sacks he had last year. And even in a big play league, which we are, wow, that's splitting hairs. He beat him by about a point.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. These two guys are the favorite. So they'd be the odds-on favorites in Vegas if you were betting on this.
But the sticky stats are hard to replicate. Those 9 sacks, a 5-sack year for Devin White is going to be a great year.
Yes.
I don't know that he can replicate 9 sacks every year.
Yeah, I would. If I had to pick between those two to be the LB1, I'm picking Roquan Smith because I'm not arguing that Devin White's production was propped up in large part because of sacks, which are not predictable.
Go buy Roquan. He's not a name we talk about a whole lot.
If you can.
I don't feel like he is one of these Darius Leonards, Devin White, TJ Watt.
If you're a smart Dynasty owner and you have Roquan on your team, what do you want for him? 2 first-round picks this year? Does that get it done?
I don't want 2 firsts this year. I want a first and a player.
Okay.
I want a first this year is fine. I'm not sold on the first round quite yet this year. I think you can maybe get stuck if you're outside of the top 6 picks. Chase, Smith, Najee, Etienne, Pitts, and Javonte, I think, are a clear top 6. Outside of that, you're getting into Waddell. You're getting into Michael Carter, Trey Sermon, some of these intermediate
spot dependent guys.
They may be okay, but I don't know that it's going to validate getting rid of Roquan. If I'm getting rid of Roquan, I want some other good player in return.
You want like a linebacker back in return?
Oh, 100%. I want a linebacker back, but I also want a pretty high skill position player. I know it sounds like a lot. I want a George Kittle back. I want a Juju back.
Are you planting seeds right now within the XFFL?
I did just say one of my 2 players that I own. Juju's gone. I've been thinking about Kittle a lot here lately, but I don't know. Sometimes you kind of gravitate to the players that are actually on your team. But
are you naming it and claiming it right now?
As far as Roquan?
As far as the players you want for Roquan? Or the players you're willing to trade for Roquan?
I just want a lot for Roquan. And I think that if you go to the Roquan owner, I don't think he might cost as much as you think in your mind he's going to. It might be just a good time to get a little temperature check. You might not get a deal done, but it might be one of those things you should kind of make a mental note and say, okay, that's how much Josh wanted for Roquan. I might need to remember that here in a couple months.
What I've been doing recently with trades, sometimes because we have Slack for our main league, I'll discuss trades before I send offers. I've been doing a little bit here recently. I'm just firing off an offer.
For sure.
No context.
You
no
have
talking.
been. I've been noticing.
I sent off like 4 offers. They all got rejected. Don't get me wrong.
We'll get there.
But that's a little strategy I've been doing because I feel like when I discuss things, the price inevitably goes up. Sometimes you can just catch an owner like, dang, okay.
And I will say,
I'll take that.
2 things, and the ballers say this a lot too, but always have some type of communication system other than the league. Because especially with Slack, it's amazing. I mean, some people get annoying on there, but it's also a great way to just be like, Josh, you got an offer in your inbox. But the other thing I will say is actually send the offer, because then that way, if it's a contract league, you can look at the numbers and stuff.
Yes.
But if not, there's a button somebody can press.
That's right.
To put them on the team, press accept.
Play that game with kind of the impulse decision.
Absolutely,
making.
dude.
Yes. Put the offer right there at their fingertips. Don't make them think about it.
Yep.
Question number 2 here, Bobo. Will Dre Greenlaw be an LB1 in 2021?
I got a little nerdy on this one, so just behoove me for a minute. So Quan was there last year. He played about 5 games for San Francisco before being traded to New Orleans. In those games, he recorded anywhere from about 50 to 80 snaps. During the first 5 weeks, Dre recorded 75 snaps in week 1, only 17 in week 2. He was out week 3 and 4. I'm not 100% sure why he was out, but then 36 in week 5, which was Quan's last week with the team, which was week 5. The first week out of Quan's trade, Dre logged 64 snaps for 7 tackles. So if we kind of average out Quan's per week through the end of the year, that's going to put Dre, like what you're saying here, I'm going to allude to, towards the back end of that LB2 category.
Yes, he finished, according to Fantasy Pro scoring, LB 47, in large part because Quan was still there for a while.
Sure.
But I see his ceiling as a back-end LB2. Would love to have him as my LB2, but I do not see him being a top 12 guy. Yeah. If you want to plant your flag, though, that'd be a good one to plant it on. If you want kind of like, this is my hot take for linebacker in 2021, Dre Greenlaw, LB1, I'm with it.
Yeah.
I just don't see that being in his range of outcomes.
It's so hard because obviously we don't really talk about our baby as much anymore with Fred Warner.
Yep.
But Fred is really good in coverage. And I will say about Dre is a really sound tackler. I don't know. I mean, LB2 sounds like a great year for Dre. If you get an LB3 out of him for what you had to get him for, you're probably not super disappointed, honestly. But
I'm not buying him expecting an LB2 finish.
Absolutely.
I'm buying with the hope and the optimism that he could reach. And if that happens, that's amazing. Like that is the best return on investment you could possibly get. I'm buying him expecting an LB3.
And he's still kind of a low name. I don't think he'll cost a whole lot to acquire right now.
Yeah,
I'm with it.
I wanted to see where our baby Fred actually finished. He was LB 14, according to Fantasy Pro scoring, between Neville Hewitt and Hassan Reddick, if you were wondering how weird the linebacker position can be from year to year.
I think we could see another just run it back year for Fred. I think he's a top end LB2. If you happen to get him in LB1 range, that's great. I do think Dre and Fred play better together. I think the Quan mess last year probably maybe mixed up Fred's production a little bit early on in the year, but yeah, man, I really, really like both those linebackers.
I will say if I'm in a startup draft right now, I'm probably going Dre over Fred because you can get Dre a lot later.
100%.
And the potential of those two guys to finish right next to each other in the end of year rankings, it's pretty good.
Yeah, the production's not that much different.
No, for the difference in price that you're going to pay, I would much rather buy Dre. So don't forget about him.
Love that.
Next question. What do we got?
How many games will the Red Rocket Andy Dalton start in 2021?
So I said, assuming if it's him and Big Dick Nick.
Oh, yeah.
And if Andy Dalton is healthy, all 17 games.
Love that.
Because they had Nick Foles on the roster and they went and got Andy Dalton. So that tells you they don't like Foles there as the starter. So if Dalton is the guy and if it's just the two of them, Dalton is going to start the entire season if he's healthy. I think he is a better quarterback than Nick Foles. Now, not by much.
Yeah.
If I was grading him on a 1 to 100 scale, maybe Nick Foles is like a 71 and Andy Dalton's like a 74 or 75. So it's not that big of a difference.
Yeah.
But I still think Dalton is an upgrade.
One thing that people, the things that happen in your life most recently are what people will remember. And people will remember Nick playing for the Bears last year and just playing okay. He didn't do a ton. So whether Andy Dalton is is better than Nick or not, I don't know. But we're going to find out for sure. I mean, I'm with it. Andy Dalton, I'm with you 100%. If he stays healthy, let's see 17 games out of him. And I think he's better than Nick.
I think he is. Now, the Bears are still probably going to win like 7 or 8 games with Dalton as their quarterback.
For sure.
Like they'll have a chance to maybe punch above their weight and win 9 or 10 games, but
because
I don't like that team.
Like we remember they were in the playoffs last year.
We did not remember they were in the playoffs, but we remember now that
Google helped us remember.
Yeah, Google was helping us out big time on that one.
Does Trubisky just float into the ocean?
He's with the Bills now.
Is he really?
As a backup. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't see that.
So he's Josh Allen's backup.
Yeah, the Bears are interesting. Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson back, Cole Kmet. I don't know about Jimmy Graham, David Montgomery. Do with what you want, but defense is it's okay. It's a decent defense. But I'm with you.
It's just an average, decent team.
I just don't think Nagy's great either.
I think they'll probably finish 6-11, 7-10. Nagy will get fired.
Yeah.
Ryan Pace will get fired. They'll clean house. They'll draft a quarterback high, and they'll just reset.
I just kind of hate how everybody who was brought in around that whole Sean McVay time frame is kind of supposed to be similar to him, or at least keep up with him. And
the
even
offensive genius.
Yeah, you know, it's like Nagy's not great. He's not bad. He's just, I don't know, not good. Doesn't keep you in a job for very long.
No, it does not. What's the next question here, Bobo?
So, Joshy, it's a personal question that we had a discussion about last night.
That we did.
And this is legitimately a listener question. I didn't make this up. But what do we do with the wide receiver from Las Vegas, Henry Ruggs?
So as we know, you just alluded to.
Sure.
We were having this conversation last night. I'm trying to buy Henry Ruggs.
Okay.
You'll probably never be able to get him for cheaper than he is right now.
Mm-hmm.
He is a blue chip prospect with high draft capital.
Yep.
Not the best quarterback situation in the world, but certainly not one of these situations where you're like, poor Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy got Drew Lock, or, you know, if Teddy Bridgewater ends up at the helm of some team, you know. So, yeah, Derek Carr, I don't think he's the best in the world. He's average, and I do think I'm taking the long view with Ruggs.
100%.
I think that, is it going to be 2021, his breakthrough season? Maybe, but probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But if the Raiders get a big-time quarterback upgrade at some point, which I could see coming in 2022, then Ruggs you could be looking at that kind of late career, third year.
Yeah.
But like Devontae Parker type breakout that is a post-hype sleeper, everyone's written this guy off type of thing.
I kind of relate him to a DJ Chark, Denzel Mims. I'm trying to think of who else has got one now. Even maybe Brandon Ayuk or Debo, to where it's like they got Jimmy G, they got Darnold, they got Carr, they got Gardner Minshew. The NFL can change very quickly. And now we're looking at DJ Chark is about to be catching balls from Trevor Lawrence. You know, same with Visca. You know, Denzel Mims is about to be catching balls from either Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. So, sure, I agree with you 100%. Henry Ruggs, I think people forget a lot of times, and I don't think it was a mistake if you look back at the wide receiver class that was 2020, because it was just full of just elite athletes. But Henry Ruggs was the first wide receiver off the board last year, which people forget.
Kind of crazy.
And, you know, it's kind of bizarre, too, that then they doubled down and went with Brian Edwards as well out of South Carolina, who, again, I'm really big on. Here's my only concern with Ruggs, and here's the reason why I might sell him is John Gruden is still there for another 7 years probably, or however long.
We'll get to that. I don't know that I agree, but
sure,
right now he is the head coach, and that's problematic.
And that boy wants to run the ball, and he wants to, you know, just give it to, I guess, Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake now, which we'll get into here in a minute. But I just don't know. Man, Ruggs is just really difficult. I could have a long conversation about him. I really think Ruggs,
the number one wide receiver off the board in a loaded wide receiver class.
And there's even more.
I'll buy the potential.
There's even more to the story, because now it's like they signed John Brown and Willie Snead, but they also just got off of Tyrell Williams and Nelson Aguilar. That's
right.
And if you look at Nelson Aguilar's game log from 2020,
he was the number one wide receiver.
It was pretty good, man. Yep. It was pretty good, and I think Ruggs is better than Aguilar. So
that's why Aguilar went and got one of the biggest deals in free agency this year.
But would you be surprised if we looked up at the end of 2021 and just said, wow, Ruggs is wide receiver 58?
Oh, not at all.
I mean,
I could definitely see that.
He could be wide receiver 18.
Could be.
It's hard.
I would lean
Ruggs.
more toward the 58 side. Like I said, I think he's going to need a quarterback upgrade to really pop. Derek Carr's not necessarily the best deep thrower in the world. Watch that cut up from Kyborg if you want proof of that.
Yes. But here's the issue with Ruggs. It's so hard to buy Ruggs right now because he's similar to Darrell Henderson from a couple years ago. People had to get Hendo at like the 107. So they gave so much to get Ruggs that they still want so much back in return. You can't necessarily buy Ruggs right now like he's like somebody got him in the third round, because honestly they probably had to pay up to get him. But man, Ruggs is difficult. If you've got a better idea of what to do with him, please let us know.
Well, and if you have a Ruggs manager in your league that is just blowing up, your
Tired of it.
Slack channel like this guy's such a bum. Is
Yeah.
this guy ever going to break through?
Yeah.
Go to him and see if you could toss out, some draft picks and maybe a player or two and see if you can bring this guy in on the cheap.
Patience is a virtue in Dynasty.
That's right. Don't sell these guys off of year one performance.
The two running
especially
backs
in a dynasty league.
The two running backs that were traded in our main league last year, rookie running backs, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers.
That's right.
I traded JT, regretfully so. Shout out Zach. And also was able to receive Cam Akers.
There you go.
Give the boys a little bit more time.
Give him some time, especially wide receiver. Running backs should pop a lot quicker than wide receivers do, even though we've seen a lot of rookie wide receivers make a big impact for fantasy.
Trent Richardson, comp. Get out of here.
Let's stop.
Stop it.
I was saying that.
It's okay.
I was saying that.
It's
okay. That was my fault.
It looked it.
It did.
I hate this next
I could
question.
still see that video of him running into his lineman's butt.
It's rough.
Next question. Is this the year that Aaron Donald starts to decline? And I'll start us off here, Bobo, because you're indulging in your baby pouch
It's
right now.
almost out.
Aaron Donald was the defensive player of the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, expecting some regression is smart, but especially for fantasy purposes, he's still going to be the odds-on favorite to finish as the defensive tackle one in a top 10 defensive lineman overall.
Yep.
So no, he's not like the sky is falling asset for your IDP leagues.
I was thinking about this on the way over, legitimately. There's several players in the NFL that I think is, as far as, Dynasty is concerned, that you just ride into the sunset. Those players, and even historically speaking, to me, are Aaron Donald, Luke Kuechly, Troy Polamalu,
Bobby Wagner.
And even if you want to talk offense, Calvin Johnson, Derrick Henry is approaching that category for me. Tom Brady might be in that freaking category for me. I mean, he's not quite the fantasy producer that we want to see, but Brady has been so good for so long. It's just, these, and I don't even think that, like, I guess is Donald generational, or is he even bigger than generational? I mean, like, I know that's
a first ballot, no brainer Hall of Famer.
That's kind of a macro question, I guess, but it's like, dude, I am not trading Donald. Don't trade Donald. Just let him retire
on
and
your
then
team.
Roll off your team,
Yes.
and then figure it out after that.
Let's just hold him and profit forever.
Especially in D-tackle leagues.
Yes. Oh God, yes. Especially in D-tackle leagues.
So
All
no,
right.
the answer is no.
No.
He's never going to decline.
He's never
You've seen him with his shirt off.
he's built like a Greek god, like he's chiseled out of marble.
Oh yeah,
All right, Bobo, we're gonna rank these for fantasy purposes.
for sure.
Carson Wentz, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield.
Let me go first because I
Okay.
haven't seen your answer here. I'm going to say Baker Mayfield,
Okay.
and then I am going to say Carson Wentz,
All right.
Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones.
Ooh, see, we are flip-flopping big time here.
I will say I did try to buy Daniel Jones from Charlie this week because
Did
I
you?
do think he has maybe a little sneaky upside.
That's why I put him number one, because I said he has, I think Baker, which I have number two. So my order was Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz.
I knew you. I
As-
should have
as
known
we
you'd
knew,
have wins
as we
last.
knew.
For sure.
I think Baker is the best real-life quarterback, but Daniel Jones has a serious weapons upgrade
Uh-huh.
with Saquon coming back
Mhm.
and also Kenny Galladay in town
Yep.
now. So, and he has that rushing potential.
Mm-hmm.
He's white guy fast, so he's not like, a burner by any means, but
Sure. He's sneaky.
he's got the legs, sneaky athletic.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think Daniel Jones may be replaced as the Giants quarterback in 2022. It's
Yeah.
entirely possible, but I'm putting him number one here on this list.
I don't hate it. I can see a world where Daniel Jones, we look up at the end of the year and he's good
He's the QB 9,
for sure.
something like that.
It's very
I would
respectable.
be very happy with that if I was the Daniel Jeremiah. I was thinking DJ.
Who's the
Daniel
person?
Jones manager.
Who's the person on here not named Wentz most likely to disappoint?
Probably, I don't know. I mean, Darnold could be the guy that we saw in New York, and even though he has,
I wanted you to say Baker.
Baker too. I don't know. I think
We saw enough out of
fantasy
Baker.
Managers are still stung by that second-year disappointment with Baker, even though he had a respectable season last year.
Yeah.
And the Browns had that big playoff win, so
Mhm.
that's kind of the last image in people's minds is, Baker and the Browns lighting up the Steelers.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's Sam Darnold, just because the last stuff we saw from Darnold wasn't great. So yeah, I would like to buy in on the potential for my NFL franchise and my fantasy team. But of course he could disappoint.
We saw enough.
Baker, I think, is going to be like right around in that, I don't know, like 12 to 16
I was going
range.
to say 10 to 15. I think that's great. I think we saw enough Baker last year to where it's like, okay, this guy can play.
He could play.
Yeah.
He's a fine NFL quarterback.
Yep.
So what's the next question we got here, Babu?
We need our boy Addy here for this one because he's the owner. But will Justin Herbert hit a sophomore slump?
So I think it was said very well in our episode with Kai Borg that I think the Chargers will have a better record.
Yep.
Coaching upgrade. Hopefully get some health back on both sides of the ball. So I think the Chargers will be a better team, but I think Herbert will disappoint for fantasy for the reasons we discussed on last week's episode. More running game with Eckler back in the mix, plus an improved defense. They're just not going to need Herbs to do as much. And so I think if you're wanting that same kind of game-breaking ability from last year, you're not going to get it from Justin Herbert in 2021. And
I think, too, especially if you're in a redraft, where Herbert is being drafted might be a little bit difficult. He's going to go really high, I would think, as far as, QBs are concerned. But, man, I saw so much out of Herbert that I don't think we see a sophomore slump.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
I mean, trust me, I would love it if that was the case. Herbert's so exciting to watch. I'm just trying to temper my expectations a little bit.
Sure.
So I wanted to look up and see from Fantasy Football Calculator where Herbs is going right now.
Okay.
So he is actually lower than you would think. Where do you think he's going right now?
As far as overall quarterbacks?
Overall quarterbacks.
Quarterback 14.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, he's going as the quarterback 9.
Okay.
I thought he might have crept
lower
up into like the top 7,
Yeah.
Which right now it goes Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen at 2.
Wow.
Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, and Justin Herbert at 9.
That Josh Allen love is I'm seeing that more and more. I've seen him super flex and just a lot of, startups, not super flex before Mahomes because of the rushing ability.
That's right.
And Mahomes is kind of like, he just survived last year. He didn't really thrive. He had some decent games. I mean, he was a QB1, but I don't know that he was as good points-wise as Josh Allen. But yeah, man, how can you not like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams back? They're going to do something as far as tight ends concerned.
They'll add an offensive weapon, you would think.
It'd be fun to see Pitts there.
Where do the Chargers pick, though? Are they high enough in the draft to snag Pitts?
Have to be a top 10 pick, you would think.
They'd have to.
We'll look that up.
Yeah, we'll look and see where they're drafting. What about this next question, Bobo? I liked this one.
So what do you...
This was good.
What WTF was Gruden thinking signing Kenyon Drake? And what does that do to Josh Jacobs' value?
So my answer here is that this question implies Gruden was thinking and not just making moves with zero plan, which is the sense I've been getting here recently with him and Mike Mayock and the way they're running this Raiders franchise. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I think the honeymoon might be over with Gruden in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think if the team doesn't make the playoffs, he could get flushed next offseason. Don't forget, a lot of pressure to put meat in the seats, to use a Dan Hansis quote.
Love it.
With that new stadium in Las Vegas that the Raiders did not get to fill in 2020.
Yeah.
So if Gruden trots out another 5-12, 6-11 operation, I don't care if he has a 100-year contract, he's going to be out the door.
I love that.
That's my take.
But man, that Gruden lifestyle just kind of, it identifies so well with that stadium. He really needs to succeed because that stadium, I feel like, is just designed for him. Just
The big personality,
black and like dark windows and just run the ball.
It's a beautiful stadium. I've seen it in person now.
Really?
Hoping to maybe go to a game this coming season
Yeah.
if they're allowing fans in the stadiums.
Wasn't there an opening day baseball game yesterday? Texas, Arlington. I think
Texas
was like
is back open.
full
so they
crowd.
had 100% capacity in the stadium.
Nevada's probably a little different.
Nevada's much different. I mean, we were walking down the strip and everyone had their masks on outside.
Nice.
So they take it very seriously because
sure.
their tourism industry got crushed.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Goodell said he does expect full stadiums for 2021.
Love that.
So that's great. That's a good thing.
Hope we can get there.
I look, the Chargers are picking at 13. So I just
He
don't
won't be
see a
there.
world in which Pitts is still there. Especially if he's being mocked at like 4 to the Falcons.
Yeah, that's true.
He's going top 10.
I could see these mocks just being completely wrong, though. Quarterback wise, maybe not Pitts wise, but I don't know. Maybe these quarterbacks don't run off quite like we think they're going to. I will say about this, go buy Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is a very good running back. He doesn't catch the ball as much, so his upside is somewhat limited. I think that's probably, I was looking back at Drake's receiving because they were talking about, I've seen somewhere him being comped to possibly playing a little bit of wide receiver snaps. He's not going to play wide receiver, maybe once or twice a game or something small. But, Drake's biggest receiving game last year, week 11, he caught 4 balls for 31 yards. Didn't have a touchdown all year. Most games he saw 1 to 2 targets. So I don't know. I didn't think Kenyon Drake was that impressive last year, honestly.
He had a better 2019 than 2020.
The end of 2019 was like,
great.
Were we about to see a running back 5 potential?
Big, not a huge letdown, but for where you drafted him, yeah, he was a bit of a letdown for 2020.
But I will say, as far as Josh Jacobs is concerned, the guy's 23 years old. He was an RB1 last year, 3 touchdowns week 1, 2 week 5. And then he spread it out 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. So he was pushing 10 touchdowns rushing on the year. That's a fine year.
I think he's being probably pushed down too far in people's minds in terms of value.
I just don't think that Kenyon Drake is coming into a huge starting role. He's liable to play some third down stuff, but I just think that Josh Jacobs is still a good running back.
All right. Next question here. Can we expect a big year from Devin Bush, Bobo?
I don't know. I'm still kind of tempering my expectations. Just because he has the first name Devin, I don't want to comp him with Devin White. We're not talking.
Don't you do it.
Names are fine and everything.
Only one of them rides a horse, by God.
But I was going to comp somebody to Bobby, but he's not in the fantasy world anymore. So we'll just move on. There's one of the Bobbies around that's still a good guy. But anyways,
Bobby what? Bobby Bush?
We'll just run up. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, man, I think I don't know. It just depends on your league mates, honestly. It depends on the league that you're in and kind of the taste that's in their mouth about Devin Bush and whether you're going to be able to acquire him or not. I think he's fine. I think he could be an LB3 next year. I think Josh has got a little bit better actual scientific insight here to this question, but I'm not really buying him. I'm not really selling him either. He's just kind of a hold for me.
He's a good hold candidate. Yes, I think I'm expecting a big year. Does big year mean LB1? No, but I think you could be looking at, that's in his range of outcomes in my mind, because it's him, it's Vince Williams. That's it. Highsmith is still there, but as we'll talk about, he's more the Bud Dupree replacement.
For sure.
A lot of the guys that were there last year, like the guy they imported from New York, Avery Williamson is gone. Spillane is gone. So, yes, I like Devin Bush's odds to have a better year in 2021 than he did in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, this sort of feels like a prove-it year for Devin Bush, who's not exactly, blown the roof off of his first 2 seasons. PFF grades, 2019, 62.9. That's okay for a rookie.
Sure.
I think we saw Patrick Queen have like a 34.8 or something absurd.
Yep.
And then 2020, though, he did get injured, but while he was on the field, 59.7.
Yeah.
So he actually got worse. And so this is a critical year. Like we were talking to John Macri about, you have to pay attention to PFF grades, because it could be indicative of a team that is about to dump a player who, while he might be productive for IDP, sucks in actual NFL terms. I'm not saying Devin Bush is there.
Shout out Zach Cunningham.
Yes, I think he is talented. So I think this is a big year. I would be looking at Devin Bush, high-end LB2, low-end LB1 upside.
Wow. See, I'm thinking probably high-end, back-end LB2, low-end LB4.
Low-end LB4. Big range.
Yeah, I don't know. I think your PFF grade says a lot there. He's got potential. People are out of the way, but you got to put pen to paper sometimes.
That's right. I wanted to see, just for the weeks that he was actually playing, where he was. Yeah, so he was from weeks 1 through 5, LB 71.
Yikes.
So, yeah, I don't blame you if you're not buying Devin Bush, but I will certainly be happy to bring him onto my roster as like my LB2. Now, do I want some other guys in there to kind of shore up that LB2 position? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like a little Drake Greenlaw, Devin Bush combo is your LB2.
Okay.
I like that quite a bit.
Just quit using them in the same sentence as Devin White.
Yeah, the Devins aren't on the same plane anymore.
Hey, think about this too. Devin Bush and Devin White were probably taken side by side in drafts.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
How
if we went
insane is
back
that?
and looked at our rookie draft, I'm sure they were.
And I bet they were third rounders.
Probably.
It would have been 2019.
2019 draft. You want to look that up on our
on
draft?
it. I'm on it.
Ask this next question. This is a great question. I love this. All right. I have limited experience with IDP, and one thing I have struggled with is in rookie drafts, how to value offensive players compared to the value of defensive players. I get positional needs per team, but as far as pre-draft rankings and in the draft, what tips and tricks do you have for comparing a defensive player versus an offensive player? I love this question, Bobo.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what I would say from doing now, I believe, 4 or 5 rookie drafts with our main league. The first round, going to be mainly offense. Possibly 1 to 2 IDPs in there, depending on, like, this year, maybe there's one.
Sure.
Maybe it's Micah Parsons if he lands in a great spot. Last year we saw Chase Young, and I think Isaiah Simmons went round 1 as well. So the second round, you'll see a few more IDPs, mainly still offense. The third round is the gold mine for IDP.
Yep.
Did you find the draft results we were looking for?
So Devin Bush went 303.
There you go.
Devin White, 301.
Okay. So as I was saying, third round, that's where you want to be. So if you want to restock the IDP pantry and you want to get a little younger on that side of the ball, trade a few of your diminishing assets for third round picks. I'm thinking guys like maybe Cameron Jordan.
Sure.
You know, linebackers that maybe you think are on the backside.
Khalil Mack.
Yeah, Khalil Mack. Maybe like maybe one of those Cowboys linebackers.
Jalen
if you're not
Smith.
sure about them. You know, trade some of those guys for third round picks.
Yep.
You'd be surprised how many people devalue third rounders.
Ask for a second. Let them work you down to a third.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll give you a second and then boom, you're in the money.
100%.
But if you're thinking, man, I would love to just grab some picks on the cheap that I could use for premium IDP assets, third round is where you want to be.
I'm thinking that this year too, especially, I think the IDPs could maybe go late second this year because I don't think the rookie offensive side is as good as maybe people are thinking.
That's what I've heard as well.
You've got a lot of dart throw running backs and wide receivers, and if they hit, that's great. But I also think that this is going to be we're kind of flipping the sides a little bit. There was a lot of Simmons, Queen, Chin, whatever, Young last year, good IDP class, but the offensive class was unbelievable.
Yes.
I think it's a little bit, the script has flipped this year to where there's great offensive pieces. There's some really good IDPs that are coming out this year.
There's no, from what I understand, people that are smarter than me, there's no Chase Young
100%.
in this group, but the depth
absolutely
might be a little more impressive than what it was last year on the IDP side.
Especially at linebacker. I think there's a lot of potential 3-down linebackers coming into this year. You know, and even if we want to get into this question in regards to, let's just say you've got a dynasty startup and you're not sure if you're just running a snake draft and you've got a 10 or 12 team league, when to start bleeding in some of these IDPs. You know, I think we probably always lean a little later. I know especially Adam wants to be about the last team off of the offensive board. Just because if you listen to good IDP podcasts, if you are in tune with, rankings, sleepers, people that maybe you could get down the line, it kind of makes sense to stack up that offense, and then maybe round 7, 8, 9, really 8 or 9 would probably be preferable. Try to grab you a couple defensive ends. Defensive ends pretty shallow. Once you get through the first couple, the teardrop is pretty far. But as far as linebackers are concerned, there's a couple elite linebackers. Your Devin Whites are going to be hard to acquire. You're going to have a pretty high draft position. Devin White might go in the 5th or the 6th. I'm not even sure where he's going right now. But IDP wise, always string a good offense together first before you jump into that defense.
Agreed.
But I'm with you, Josh. Yeah, I think that's a great analysis on the rookie draft for this year. I think go and get you some thirds this year. Thirds and fourths. I mean, maybe you're going to have, and we have this every year to where we have a rookie draft and we're like, man, there's some really bad draft picks in here. And those players that you're paying attention to are just falling. And you might be sitting in the 3rd or the 4th round thinking, man, I got to get a couple more picks because I like who's still available. So I hope you've got a league that, allows you to maybe move draft picks within the actual draft. But yeah, go get some thirds. I love that.
Go get some thirds and hit us up on Twitter at Big3IDP. DMs are always open if you have more questions about this. We love helping newbies find their footing in IDP leagues. So, Bobo, we're going to speed through a few of these here. Should we expect a Juju comeback season?
No, I don't think so.
I would expect a diminished version of what you saw in 2020. Everybody's still there.
Mm-hmm.
We have a further compromised Big Ben, possible running back upgrade. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Some more weapons to take away, more touches, more catches, more touchdowns. So yeah, if Juju was hoping to boost that stock and hit the market again when the cap goes back up in 2022, you may have made the wrong choice.
Hopefully they get a running back and actually have a running game this year, which will make Ben.
It would help
the
offense. I don't know that would help Juju, but it would help the Steelers tremendously.
Yeah, I'm not buying Juju right now. Maybe 2022. He looks different on a different lineup, but Ben's still a competent quarterback. He can still, you still want Claypool, you still want Juju. I don't mind James Washington. You still want Deontay Johnson. Yeah, I'm not buying Juju, but if you want to hold him, that's fine.
A lot of weapons there for Big Ben to hopefully get the ball too with that degenerating shoulder.
Ray McLeod, forgot about him.
Oh, Ray.
Yeah,
we love Ray.
Yeah, I actually traded for Ben this week. I don't know why. It's because I have Deshaun. That's why.
There you go.
We're worried.
You're worried Deshaun may be on the commissioner's exempt list for all of this season. All right, rank the drip. Alvin Kamara, Laviska Shenault, and Derwin James. Did you make up this question and say it was a listener, Bobby?
No. Somebody said something about drip, and these are the 3 guys that I could come up with.
Okay, there you go.
I wanted to throw a defensive player in there too.
I'm going AK, Viska, Derwin.
Okay, I'm going to go AK, Derwin, Viska, just because Derwin.
It's Derwin. I understand. He's just been hurt, So
yeah, that's true.
And I know Viska is a rookie, but that's mainly for Addy.
I got to see it on.
Can't disrespect his baby.
I got to see it on field a little more for Viska. Then the drip will be there.
AK has the visor. He has the tape. He's one of the only players that can make the taped backside of his arms
and
look good.
Works.
He's got a nose ring in. He's got the grill in. Like, he just looks so fresh.
And he's just tweeting out saying, like, is there any other sports I can play?
He's out snowboarding. Yeah. Like, he's so drippy.
Just get it, AK.
What is Kenny G's value with the New York Giants?
Higher than you would think.
Okay.
That's my answer. I love your evaluation here. The targets are going to be there. Daniel Jones really needs him. I think this is a great get for New York. I think a lot of people are probably crapping on Kenny G. He's a little bit older, so for Dynasty, he's not somebody I just want to live with forever. But for 2021, I think he's great.
Yeah, I see him in Dynasty, wide receiver 15 to 20 range.
Okay.
There are factors working against him. Danny Dimes, is he going to be there long term?
Yeah.
Who knows? Is he going to finish out the season as the Giants quarterback? We'll see.
Yeah.
And wide receivers switching teams tend to not do as well than where they did with their previous teams. I'm not making the case that Daniel Jones is an upgrade over Matthew Stafford. I think it's actually a downgrade.
Sure. But
he is now clearly the unquestioned one in this offense. He's got paid. The targets are going to be there.
Mhm.
This should be a better offense than what it was last year, and he'll be a big part of that. So yeah, I'm not like super hyped, like go get him right now.
Mhm.
But I think it didn't really change his outlook in my mind.
Yeah.
Truthfully, because we knew Matthew Stafford was getting nearer to the end of the road. So you wanted Kenny G to go find a good young quarterback to be tethered to for the back half of his career. Is Daniel Jones that guy? I don't know. We'll see. Could be.
He's not a wide receiver one.
No, he is not.
Yeah.
No, he is not. I think he's a great wide receiver too.
Love that.
Why don't you ask this next question, Bobo?
So this is a personal question for you, Josh, but this was actually a question. So what does the Marlon Mack re-signing do to JT's value?
So I don't think Mack will be anything but an annoyance for JT managers, because I really do believe, I've said this already, the Achilles injury for running backs, it's a death sentence. Running backs just do not come back from Achilles injuries.
It's the Achilles heel.
That's exactly right. You don't want an Achilles injury. It is the Achilles heel for running backs. But this does cap JT's upside. We talked a little bit about this last week with Kyborg. I don't see the RB1 in JT's range of outcomes anymore with Mack there, with Hines there. But unless he gets injured, he will be an RB1.
I was hoping to maybe catch Zach a little off this week and
tilting a little bit,
kind of saying, what do you think about the Max signing? And he thought I was talking about somebody for the Bengals. And I was like, no, Mac for Indianapolis, they re-signed him, and he was still
he's not moving
firm as ever.
Pittman or JT. Trust me, I've already come knocking.
But I will say that is the appropriate response. Please don't sell JT for anything worse, less.
Don't
than
make
what
the
he's
same
worth.
mistake I did.
I still love JT.
All right. What do we think about Kyle Pitts' ADP right now? It is at 65, which is the highest for a rookie tight end by like 20 spots.
It's too high.
I agree. I think this speaks more to the desolate tight end landscape than it does to Pitts' talent, which, we all know is undeniable. Kyle Pitts is very talented, but I feel very confident saying Pitts is going to disappoint in redraft based on where he's going, which could very easily skyrocket if he lands in a primo situation like Atlanta with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and maybe a second round in running back. Holy crap, Kyle Pitts could be tight end 2.
Yeah.
By the time that's all said and done, if that's the landing spot. But the fact is, tight ends on average usually take 2 to 3 years to break out. First-year tight ends consistently underwhelm with very few exceptions. Now, Kyle Pitts could very well be that exception, but based on where you might have to end up drafting this guy in redraft, disappointment, I think, awaits a lot of over-eager fantasy managers.
I've never been a fan of drafting someone at their ultimate potential, and that's basically where you're drafting these guys right now. You're drafting Kyle Pitts like he has to be the tight end 2. There's no variance there. There's no leeway. I'm never a fan of that. Always buy low. I don't like paying people even in drafts at their maximum value.
What's the percentage chance if he does end up going as tight end 2 or tight end 3 that he returns on that value? It's pretty small in my mind,
small.
like 25% maybe.
Because even these teams that we're kind of looking at him at, if he goes to Atlanta, it's probably great. If he goes to the Bengals, it's probably great. But still, there's just, I don't know. Everybody kind of wants to get that next Kelsey. It's just so hard to do.
We're just so desperate for tight ends. It's hurting Kyle Pitts. It's not his fault. It's just what we're doing to him.
I will say this year in rookie drafts, I don't mind him at like 6 overall.
Oh, and Dynasty,
because
I love it.
That means your top ones are through. The next tier is coming. But if you don't want to trust a Bateman or a Waddle or a Sermon or a Hubbard or whoever you want to
we've seen
tag next,
tight ends like Travis Kelce this past year should have been like the 6th or 7th pick in redraft.
I'm fine with that tier break. I think he could be good.
I think he will be good.
But
landing spot dependent, obviously.
Yeah.
But don't push him up the board to tight end 2 or 3 in redraft. That's placing unfair expectations on him.
Agreed.
It's going to lead to disappointment for you as the manager. Don't do it. Don't do it. So another question here, Baba. Which veteran IDPs do you see possibly losing value in this upcoming draft?
Yeah.
I don't want to skip out on answering this question, but I'm going to, because I know we are going to provide an in-depth answer to this question next week. We have an awesome episode. I am so excited. We're going to be welcoming on DFF Trip from Dynasty Football Factory. Go follow him on Twitter, one of my absolute favorite Twitter followers. And we are going to be talking about team need in the NFL draft on the defensive side of the ball. So listen to that episode, because what you will learn is, if we're talking about this team needs a linebacker, this team needs a safety, you can say, okay, the linebacker or safeties for that team could be in jeopardy of having their spot usurped by a rookie.
Yep.
So listen to that episode next week. I think you're going to get an answer to your question in terms of who should you be looking to offload right now that is an IDP veteran. And go follow our boy DFF Trip.
Mm-hmm.
It is at Dynasty Trip, TRIPP on Twitter.
Love that.
So next question here, Bobo.
Yeah. Let's go to this one.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Danielle Hunter in regards to his current IDP value? This is a really important question.
It is a very important question.
The DN1 from 2019.
That's right.
I don't remember how many sacks he had, pushing 20. Was by far and away, that was the year Garrett mashed Mason Rudolph's head in.
That's right.
But Garrett was on track to have a really good year as well. But I don't know, man. I think he's a good buy, but he had the two big question marks are the bulging disc.
Neck stuff is worrisome.
I mean, and you're the Peyton Manning painting lover.
Right.
And, the other thing is contract stuff is a little worrisome.
Unhappy.
I do like that Ifedi is gone, and now it's basically him and DJ Wanham. But I don't know. I like him if he's going to play. I just don't know if how healthy he's going to be, and he might be disgruntled.
He missed an entire year.
Yeah.
So he's had a year to rehab. I think the contract stuff typically tends to work itself out. So I'm not as worried about that. Yeah, I think he's a great buy candidate. Here's why. He's yesterday's news, because a lot of it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yep. You're not going to find him on last year's stats.
Right. That's right. So he could be a guy that managers are devaluing right now just because he didn't do anything for them, especially if you took him as your number one IDP in like a startup draft. You're feeling the sting of that. You're like, just get this guy off my roster. I'm tired of this. So, and you're right. Let's not forget, 1 year removed from the defensive lineman 20 points more than the second place scorer in 2019, who was Dante Fowler, weirdly enough.
Wow.
By Fantasy Pros scoring. So, yes, go buy Danielle Hunter. Understand the risks, the caveats that come with that purchase.
Sure.
But, yes, there is a world in which he returns to defensive lineman 1 kind of status.
Also, since he was good, there's kind of been an upcoming crop of names that have probably pushed his name down a little bit. You've got your Nick Bosa's, you've got your Josh Allen's, you've got your Chase Youngs and Montez Sweat, Myles Garrett, Brian Burns. I mean, you've got a bunch of these younger players that, are Danielle's still young, but
he's getting up there.
He's becoming forgotten. That's becoming a forgotten name. I
always think Danielle Hunter is like 28.
He's 27, I think.
I think he's younger than that, isn't he? He is. I did Danielle Hunt.
Awesome.
It's like an Instagram model. Danielle Hunter is 26 years old.
Wow.
Be 27 in October, end of October.
Yeah.
So younger than you think. I thought he was like 28, maybe even pushing 29.
Love that.
We got a great comment here from David Kelly on our live stream. Pitt's rookie draft ADP is getting scary high.
It is. You're right.
Yeah. So I'll be so fascinated to see. We think we have all this stuff figured out, and then the draft happens, and then we end up with CEH at the 101, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll be so curious to see how this pans out once we know landing spots for these guys. Does Pitts go up or does Pitts go down? I don't see a world in which Pitts goes down. I only see a world in which he goes up.
Gosh,
I think it's going to be confirmation bias of, he landed with a great quarterback and a great system. rocket ship to the moon, or, well, yeah, this team's never supported a tight end one, but they've never had anybody as good as Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
So now he should be drafted high because of that.
Yeah. He's not going to the Bengals or to Atlanta. Those are too valuable of picks this year to grab a Kyle Pitts.
It's going to be 4 QBs in the top 4 picks, people.
Well, and even if
the Patriots are going to trade into 4 and
Yeah.
take Mac Jones.
There you go.
It's coming.
There you
just
go.
Just wait. It's coming.
So speaking of quarterbacks, let's get to this gross question.
Gosh,
so how do you value Deshaun Watson right now?
So I want everything that we're saying about Deshaun not to be true.
Yeah.
But I think it's becoming naive to think something didn't happen with the number of accusers, which I think we're up to 22
Something
now.
like that.
2 of them have come forward.
As of today, I think.
One of them, who was not, has not filed a civil lawsuit, spoke out with Jenny Varentis of Sports Illustrated. And so, yeah, man, he's edging toward that Tyreek territory for me of, I don't want you on any of my teams.
Yeah.
Because there's an element of fantasy for me that involves not rostering bad people.
Yeah.
And I want to believe, we were discussing this today, it's kind of the Bill Cosby effect. We didn't want to believe that Bill Cosby, America's dad, was a serial rapist.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to believe that the Deshaun Watson that we know could be, a sexual, assaulter, a sexual abuser, a sexual predator.
Yeah.
But it's becoming hard to ignore, this, when there's smoke, there's fire. And right now there is a lot of smoke for there not to be any fire. So we're having to deal with this cognitive dissonance of, this is not lining up with the Deshaun Watson that we know in our minds. And so we're struggling to accept this as a possible reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's affecting our judgment with fantasy, because we're thinking, well, what if it's not true? Then he should be fine. I don't know how Deshaun Watson does not miss games in 2021.
Yeah, I'm on to plan B at this point as far as planning for this year.
I think you have to.
This week I've traded for Matt Stafford and Big Ben, and I'm probably not done. I'm probably thinking about some other person to maybe stream for this year. But I traded for Deshaun 2019. I gave 2 firsts for him and Jordan Poyer, and it's in a contract league, and I just renewed Deshaun's contract last year. So my view of this is a little bit skewed, but I think you're right. I kind of want that juju off of my team and not have to deal with I don't know, man. There's both sides to it. There's like, he might not play in 2021. We also said the same about Tyreek, and here we are,
right.
2 years removed from that.
Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins.
Dude.
Go get these guys, because Tyreek's going to be out the entire season. Yes, the justice system in the NFL is a little weird. Typically with civil lawsuits, the NFL does not do anything. It has to be a criminal lawsuit, but we have seen there has been a criminal lawsuit brought against Watson now, so it's going to be on the NFL's radar.
This could be really ugly.
It could be very bad, and it's all we're going to be hearing about because we're in the dead period of the NFL calendar right now. So that's Deshaun Watson's worst nightmare. He was already in the spotlight from the trade request.
Yeah.
The new GM, new head coach coming in, and that whole kind of toxic situation. Now the calendar is cleared out. There's nothing on the docket until the draft gets here. So it's Deshaun Watson accusation season, and that's not good. That's not good for him, this possibly getting swept under the rug.
Yep.
So, all right.
I just don't even like talking about it, really.
It's gross. I hate it because it pains me deep in my soul to think about all of these women.
Yeah.
If these accusations are true, I have no reason to think they are not true.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage for women to come forward, even in today's age where we take sexual assault and rape a lot more seriously than we did in decades past.
Yeah.
It's still really hard to come forward and talk about this sort of stuff because there is so many stigmas attached to it. There's still victim blaming. Oh, you did something to deserve this.
Yeah.
And so it's just gross, man. I hate to think about the trauma that's been inflicted. I saw one of the victims today who came forward that said, it's like I'm trying to wake up from a nightmare only to realize the nightmare is real life. Like, that's awful.
Yeah. And the thing too that I keep going back to is like the amount of trying to sweep under the carpet and the amount of trying to like backtrack, and what I've seen as far as like logging these masseuse treatments through other masseuses so that they don't know which person is showing up. I mean, it's like,
And using that many different massage therapists is weird as well.
was like very, very thought out.
Yes,
Like,
it was methodical. It was Bill Cosby-esque in terms
and
of
that's the predator
yes.
part of this, to where it's like, wow, these women were just mentally tortured, I guess, in
Yes.
a way. So anyways, we won't talk about that very much.
It just sucks, man. It
awful.
really, really sucks, and I hate it for the victims.
Yep.
More than anybody else. Like,
Yep.
Deshaun,
100%.
Fantasy managers, that
Whatever.
is way, 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 way down the totem pole of importance here. So,
Agreed.
2 more questions here I want to talk about, Bobo. Any linebacker sleepers we should be targeting before the draft from our boy K-Town Ray? What's up, Ray? We got you, baby. Check out John Macri's episodes with Mike and Johnny.
Heck
that are
yeah.
in the feed, Big Nickel IDP, discussing buy, sell, hold candidates for the AFC and the NFC. We've got you covered. These are the guys that you want to go get before the draft. And best landing spots for some rookie IDPs from our boy Steven Taylor. Steven, we got some great episodes from John Macri coming up here. We already mentioned his episode with Kyle B, talking about the best rookie linebacker prospects. They also discussed landing spots on those pods.
Yep.
Got Joy the Tooth coming up tomorrow for defensive line, and got John Glosser for the DB episode. So listen to those. They will fill you in on rookie landing spots.
The answer is always Isaiah Simmons, though.
That's right. It's never not Isaiah Simmons, no matter what the question is.
Answer that question real quick for me. Give me one LB sleeper that you like for this year. I'll give you mine, Jordan Brooks. I'll give you another answer from earlier, a veteran that we could maybe see slip. I think Wagner could take a step back this year. I think he's great still. KJ Wright's gone. I think that Jordan Brooks could take another step into relevance this year.
Absolutely. I'll give you a guy that was with the Indianapolis Colts that is now elsewhere, Anthony Walker.
Like that.
It's he was always good. He was just in the shadow of Darius Leonard.
Yeah.
Now, is he a Nick Kwiatkowski? That's kind of the comp I have in my mind, right?
Sure.
Of like, we could see Anthony Walker step into a role where he is immediately the linebacker one.
Bears Nick, not Raiders Nick.
That's right.
2 different people.
We don't want anything
like Corey.
to do. Yes, that's right.
Rams Corey, Raiders
You're
Corey.
hoping you don't get that kind of experience.
For sure.
But yes, stepping into that Cleveland Browns linebacking core that is totally devoid of talent, maybe outside of Jacob Phillips. Yes, I think Anthony Walker is a great sleeper.
That's another little tag. Jacob Phillips.
That's right.
Good one.
Buy, sell, hold time, Bobo. We're going to run through these. We're going to blister these off here.
So what I tried to do is I tried to come up with quarterback, running
That's
back.
right.
So just
Saw
kind
what
of
you did there. It was
some of them
fun.
are top end, some of them are a little bit lower. So we'll run through these and get a collection of some buy, sell, holds. But I love a little buy, sell, hold action.
That you do.
Yeah.
Let's start with quarterback. Buy, sell, hold. Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, and Derek Carr.
Okay.
How you going?
I'm selling David Carr.
All right.
I am holding Matt Ryan, and I'm selling Kirk Cousins.
All right.
Kirk Cousins had a lot of touchdowns last year. It's going to be hard to replicate. Shout out JJ on that gritty. I mean, I think he's good, but Thielen's a little bit older. I know we all want to have Big Irv swerving, but I'm still a Matt Ryan fan.
Yeah, Kirk's touchdowns were through the roof in 2020.
Yeah.
I'm still buying Kirk, though, just based on the options that I have here. I'm selling Matt Ryan just because what if they go quarterback at 4?
That's true.
And suddenly Matt Ryan is...
That's a great point.
The ticking clock is up against Matt Ryan. And I'm holding Derek Carr just because we'll see. I mean, he has the weapons there.
You can't get a lot for him right now.
That's right. And a lot of these with my holds, you're going to see you either can't get a lot for him or you're not going to get what you should be getting for him right now.
For sure.
Running back, buy, sell, hold. Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, and Derrick Henry. I'll go first on this one.
Okay.
I'm buying Dalvin Cook. I'm selling Derrick Henry, and I'm holding AK.
Wow. Give me a little bit of a background to those.
So I think AK, you would love to be able to sell him because of the Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston conundrum.
Sure.
But I don't think you're going to get the value back that you deserve right now.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, just the amount of mileage on the tires the past few years with the Titans, I think they're going to want to open up the passing offense a little more. And even though they lost a lot of weapons there, you've got A.J. Brown. You've got an alpha-level wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I know A.J. Brown has already broken through. It's not like we're waiting on the A.J. Brown breakthrough, but I think you're going to see that that kind of seesaw tip a little more in A.J. Brown's favor, where the Titans become a little more. They won't be a passing team because you still have Derrick Henry.
Sure.
But a little more of a passing team. So I want to sell Henry. And then I don't know if you can buy Dalvin Cook right now. Maybe. But I don't know, man. Dalvin Cook, he's up there right now with, he might be number one because you got the other two guys coming off injuries, question marks.
This is essentially 1, 2, 3 from last year.
Yes.
And I've never had a harder 1, 2, 3 to try to negotiate between. I will say that I am holding Alvin Kamara. I'm going to buy Derrick Henry, and I'm going to sell Dalvin Cook.
All right.
I only wanted to do this because I wanted to say I'm selling Dalvin Cook. You look back historically, he's been a little banged up and hasn't strung together a full year. He strung a full year together in 2020, was great, was a top 3 running back. I just don't know that you're going to see that year in and year out. I think people are probably going ahead and saying what you're saying. Derrick Henry, a lot of tread on the tires, whatever. Their RB2, Jonnu is gone, but Derrick Henry for me is still one of those guys to where I think we could look up in 5 years, be like, man, this guy's still producing. And then AK, just love AK.
I'm just selling Henry because I'm waiting for the Darrington Evans
for sure
to break out.
For sure.
That's really what it comes
just
down
give it
to.
Time.
All right, Bobby, what's our next one here?
Our next one is the Drip Master Chase Claypool, Cortland Sutton, and DJ Chark. And I'll go first.
All right, hit me with it.
Because you've asked about Sutton. I got my eye on you.
Yes, I have.
So I would say here that I am selling Chase Claypool. I am going to hold Cortland Sutton, and I'm going to buy DJ Chark.
All right.
That's going to be hard to do.
Pretty similar right now. I'm buying Sutton because I think people are down on him with the Drew Lock situation.
That's very
with
true.
Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant, Melvin Gordon there as well.
Yep.
I'm going to sell Chase Claypool just because Juju's back.
Yeah.
Big Ben is, going to fall off a cliff, I think, this season.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hold DJ Chark. I think that, like Addy, you could see Visca become the team's number 1 wide receiver this season, but he has a humongous quarterback upgrade incoming.
Yep.
I have to keep reminding myself it's Jacksonville, so there's this stink on any of the quarterbacks they bring in, but Trevor Lawrence is being comped to Andrew Luck.
Nice.
If that is true, that's a franchise-altering type of move.
Yep.
So every weapon attached to that team gets a huge bump up in stock. So I'm holding DJ Chark.
Yeah, I love that. I think, even with Claypool, even if Ben survives this year, they're going to do something different at quarterback for 2022. So what does Claypool's value do then? I agree with you about Sutton. People have forgotten. I haven't because I went and bought him this offseason, but most people are probably like, Judy, Hamler, Alberto, Noah Fant, blah, 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 whatever. Sutton is a great wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
With a upside of wide receiver 2. But I think Chark is going to be hard to buy. I think if people have brains at all, minus Visca, if you're tagging, and I do the same thing too. I do it with the Jets. And I'm having to stop myself now and be like, Denzel Mims, whatever. Gase is gone. It's like Denzel Mims. Like,
hello.
Oh my gosh.
And Chark was a huge disappointment. He was my most rostered offensive player last year.
Wow.
Crap the bed.
Yeah.
Just every room in the house had a bed full of crap.
It wasn't him. It was James
it was
Robinson. And,
it was the team.
Minshew.
Terrible organization.
But I like that.
Buy, sell, hold, tight end edition. Robert Tonyan, Logan Wilson, Mike Gesicki. I'll go here. I'm going to buy Gesicki, sell Tonyan.
Okay.
Touchdown Tonyan.
Yeah.
Not a sticky stat.
Sure.
I'm going to hold Logan Wilson with the quarterback upgrade there.
Wow. I'm going to hold Tonyan. I'm going to sell Gesicki, and I'm going to buy Logan Wilson.
Okay.
Gesicki with Tua didn't mesh well last year, I don't think. I think that's still going to take some time. Tonyan's fun, man. I think you should have extended him in RSO if it gave you the 2-year option.
Did you mean Logan Thomas here? The tight end for the
Yeah.
Washington football team.
Yeah,
I was looking up Logan Wilson.
Not Logan
tight
Wilson, the linebacker
end, for the Bengals.
Yeah.
Yes, Logan Thomas.
Sorry, even though we like Logan Wilson, the linebacker for Cincinnati. I did mean Logan Thomas. And,
no, Tunyon, I don't know. I mean, I think I could probably let him drop into the auction for our league and scoop him up for less than what he would have cost on the extension. Or
Josh,
the
a
tag.
tricky boy. He's got a little cap space.
That's right. So, yeah, I'm not expecting the kind of production we saw from Tunyon, who was so touchdown dependent.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the ceiling yet with Gesicki.
Yeah.
Freaky athlete. And then Logan Thomas, just hold him. See what he's going to look like with Fitzmagic in town.
He's interesting to me. Logan Thomas is kind of I don't think he's going to be elite, but he somebody needs to look back at Fitzpatrick's targeting of the tight end and see if it's very high, because if it's decent at all, I think Logan Thomas, he's going to be free at this point, I believe.
Exactly.
So,
and why not? Just in the tight end landscape,
Yeah.
just shoot your shot.
exactly. Those are three gross names, honestly.
Yeah,
But
tight end's mostly gross.
we'll
though.
fight through it.
This next one was very difficult. Who we
Yeah.
got for defensive line?
So we're going to go Chris Jones, Jeffrey Simmons, and Quinnen Williams.
You go first.
Okay, I am going to sell Chris Jones. I am going to hold Jeffrey Simmons, and I'm going to buy Quinnen Williams.
We are in agreement.
Wow, I didn't even look.
Quinnen Williams has, I think a lot of IDP managers probably didn't realize the spectacular end to the season that he had.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Simmons was solid as well. Chris Jones, not
Moderately disappointing.
yes, and also they have an upgrade there along the defensive line, right?
Bingo. Seattle.
Yeah, Jaron Reed
There you
is
go.
coming in, so should eat into Chris Jones's production a little bit.
Yeah, Chris Jones was probably not productive for where you had to buy him last year.
Yeah, and this was the defensive tackle edition, I should say. 'Cause
Yeah.
we got defensive end up next, Bobby.
Shout out.
Buy, sell, hold, Trey Hendrickson, Brian Burns, and Joey Bosa.
You lead us off.
I'm going to buy Joey Bosa because I still think Nick Bosa, despite missing most of last season, is
Okay.
the sexier name in IDP. At least
Agreed.
that's the way I've always felt, and this is me personally.
Yeah.
But it seems to be reflected in the industry as well, that Joey Bosa just doesn't get the love for whatever reason. He's kind of ugly. I think that's probably part of it.
He had that foot thing for a couple games in 2019, I believe it was.
Yeah, so I'm going to buy Joey Bosa. I'm going to sell Trey Hendrickson, and I'm going to hold Brian Burns. Burns is the example of a hold just because I don't think the perceived value has caught up to the actual value yet. So the kind of offers you would receive are going to be well below what his actual value is.
And shout out to our baby Lauren, because RSO actually changed him from an LB to a defensive end this year.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Lauren's
You
paying him
love to
about
see that.
1.4 million.
All right, Lauren, we're going to have a talk.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Who are you talking to, Lauren? Who do you
Yes.
know?
Who did you send a $20 bill to?
I think I'm exactly the same here. I think Bosa is still elite. Brian Burns is working his way up. Trey Hendrickson had 13 sacks, I believe, last year. Dude, sell the mess out of that.
Yeah, sell Hendrickson. Look, we're not saying Hendrickson is going to be this massive bust, but don't draft him. Don't acquire him thinking you're getting last year's production, because you're not.
Yeah.
In all likelihood, you're going to see probably about 75 to 80% of the production he had last year, because those
Agree.
sacks are going to fall off.
He's gonna have
going to happen.
He'll have a 5 to 6 sack year.
Yeah, and he'll be solid.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be happy to have him on your team as like your DN 3 or 4.
People probably aren't paying a ton for him in drafts and stuff now.
I think the general consensus on him is pretty spot on.
Mhm.
I think even the kind of relatively inexperienced IDP players know, like, okay, this could have been very well an outlier season for Trey Hendrickson, the best season maybe that he's ever going to have.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to acquire him or draft him looking at him as my defensive end 1, even though that's where he finished last year.
That's very astute.
What's the LB buy, sell, hold, Bobby?
Deion Jones, Bobby Wagner, and Demario Davis.
All right, you hit me with this one.
Oh, man. I am going to... I'm going to buy Demario Davis.
Wow.
I'm going to hold Deion Jones, and I'm going to sell Bobby Wagner.
So when I said that Bobby Wagner was one of the guys that you just ride off into the sunset with, that's reflected here. I'm going to hold Bobby Wagner, buy Deion Jones, and sell Demario Davis. I think Demario is nearing that kind of twilight of his career.
Sure.
I think Deion Jones, we forget how good Deion Jones was last year, LB10 by Fantasy Pros scoring, because again, we are stuck on the burn. We still feel the burn of the Debo breakout that we were all anticipating that got shelved due to injury and lackluster performance. But we got the year from Debo we always wanted last year. So go buy it. I don't think perception is caught up to reality yet with Deion Jones. So go buy Jones, sell Demario Davis, hold Wagner. Why are you buying Demario Davis, I think is the question.
Zach Bond is still young. Year 2 for Zach Bond. Quan Alexander is maybe not even a Saint anymore. I know he had Achilles injury maybe on Christmas, I think.
I think his career could be over.
Yeah, so I just think Demario Davis is just kind of a solid LB2, and I just really like that. You don't have to – he's not a flashy name. I think he's still got 1 to 2 years left probably in him. I know he's like 31 or 32, but I don't know. Maybe this is too early to sell on Bobby Wagner, but people are still forgetting how good Deion Jones is.
Yeah, so Bobby Wagner was LB8 and Demario Davis was LB17 last year.
It's probably – I could see that again this year. I could see him running that back as well. But Deion Jones is a name that it's kind of being forgotten about.
Yes. So last one, buy, sell, hold, safety edition. Cameron Curl, Jabril Peppers, and Kari Willis, Bobo. Where are you going with this one?
Oh, man. I'm trying not to look at your responses here. I'm going to buy Kari Willis. I'm going to hold Jabril Peppers, and I'm going to sell Cameron Curl.
We're in agreement here.
Oh, goodness.
There's some kinks that need to be worked out in the New York Giants secondary with regard to their safeties with Xavier McKinney back in the mix. I still don't think we know.
And Logan Ryan.
We don't really know what that's going to look like yet. We haven't seen that trio play. So I'm not buying. I'm not selling. I'm just holding Peppers right now and just seeing how this thing shakes out. You're buying Kari Willis of these 3 options because he is going to be the box safety for the Colts. Him and Julian Blackman. Blackman's going to play that deeper role. And then Cameron Curl, until proven otherwise, is going to be replaced by Landon Collins. Now, if Landon Collins gets cut, if you start hearing rumors or seeing tweets about this from reliable sources, go buy Cameron Curl as fast as you possibly can.
Because those linebackers are garb. And if Washington was smart, they would probably put Curl and Landon on the field a lot.
Yes, they would.
Together. Let Curl play safety. Just put Landon wherever he wants to play.
Just whatever, put Landon up in the box with the linebackers, have Curl play safety or vice versa. Who cares? Get both these guys on the field. They're amazing.
I miss these years where Derwin, Landon, even Keanu Neal. I miss these years where you have like really good safety play. People forget quickly. Derwin is a flashy name, but people have probably
Jamal
forgotten.
Adams even.
Oh, yeah. People forget how good Landon Collins was, especially in IDP. Like that production was pretty nasty.
Absolute stud. I'm excited to see him back on the field in 2021.
That's a great assessment about Jabril, though. It's too muddy there in New York.
We need to see how it plays out. Sometimes, unless you have a really strong read, it's sometimes best just to wait out uncertainty because you don't want to be that guy who sells Jabril Peppers and all of a sudden he is the alpha in this secondary who's racking up the tackles, who's playing in the box. Who's getting the interceptions, whatever the case might be. So, just hold Peppers. There's no need to go selling this guy right now.
Holding Peppers.
We're not off Peppers, but we are off Peters. But we're back on Peters because Marcus Peters is very good.
Yeah, we're holding Peters.
We're holding Peters tight, and we're never letting Peters go. Bobby, we did it, man.
Woo, we crushed it.
Hour and 41 minutes. So this was jam-packed,
content.
though.
Yeah, not a lot of laughing.
If you wanted to hear, Adam's not over here screaming, head about to burst off his shoulders.
I missed him. I miss him.
I think this might have been like a 2.5 hour show, though.
At some point, I think you messaged me and said, we're going to have to pick this up a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to speed this up so this doesn't stretch into like the 2 hour mark.
We get to gabbing, though.
We do. Hopefully, though, we answered a lot of questions. We talked about a lot of dudes tonight, Bobo.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were wanting the goodness on both sides of the ball, you got it tonight. Hope y'all enjoyed this. So apologize for the technical difficulties with the live stream, but hope you've been enjoying take 2 here. As we mentioned, be sure to go follow our boy at Dynasty Trip on Twitter. He will be on next week talking draft needs for the NFL teams. We'll give you a good peek into IDPs that might be in trouble as we head into the end of April and the NFL draft. We've got John Macri back in the feed with Joey the Tooth talking rookie defensive line prospects tomorrow night. Look forward to that. And Bobby, we've been talking a little bit behind the scenes. Boy, we got some big things, as always, in the work. You all are going to be so excited for what we're cooking up for you guys in season with the pod.
The biggest of things.
The biggest of possible things. So look forward to it. We want to give a shout out, Bobby, as always, to our patrons.
Yeah.
We love you guys. You are one of our patrons. Shout out, Bobby.
Don't know how that happened.
Yeah, just the credit card just magically ended up on the old old Anchor supporter list. But we're thankful for all of our patrons. Thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoyed this episode. Stay safe out there. We will see you all next week.
This is Big 3 IGP.